Let us continue. Let's finish off now. Be'ez Hashem Perek Aleph. How do you get Iggeres HaTeshuva? So yesterday we went through Be'ika, the three madregas of kapara that are required. All of them, of course, need tshuva with them. But in order to have the kapara, they're slightly different. The first one, of course, is a mitzvah zaseh. Person does tshuva immediately. He gets mechila. The second madrega, higher up, more chomo, more stringent, is a mitzvah loisaseh, which of course requires Yom Kippur. And then, right at the end of yesterday, we did, if a person was over on something that a person's chayiv krisis or misas based in, so then obviously he needs tshuva and Yom Kippur, but that all waits until he has Rahman al-Sani, has Yisurim come on him. And those Yisurim, as we explained yesterday, are machapa, but they're also cleansing him, as we explained yesterday. V'hinei. Just to note, the Tanya is about to say something extremely big if you chap it. V'hinei. Mitzvahs HaTeshuva min ha-Torah. Now that's a very interesting thing, by the way. It's clearly stating over here that the mitzvah of tshuva is from the Torah, even though, if you learn the Rambam when he lists the Tariag mitzvahs, does not list tshuva as one of the mitzvahs in the Torah, except for vidoy. That's the only thing that Rambam is counts as a mitzvah, is the mitzvah of vidoy, but tshuva itself, the Rambam does not count in the mitzvahs of tshuva. The Minchas Chinuch also compares it to a get of divorce. He's saying that at the end of the day, you need to do tshuva, like to get back together again. That's a different mahalach. But upon him, that's what that says. Interesting. The Tanya seems to say clearly, Hinei mitzvahs hatshuva min ha-Torah. What is it? Aziva sachet bevad, getting rid of the aveyu. Could easily be Gemara Perek Gimel the Sanhedrin Choshen Mishpat. So similar Lamadalad in Yinei fine. Dahainu. What does that mean? The Tanya is going to very clearly define what is tshuva. How do you do it? Dahainu, three parts. Not the familiar parts that most people are aware of. A, number one, sheyigmar beliboy belev sholem leval yoshuv oid. He is now, maybe we'll translate them quickly, but I guess we'll go over them. He's making a resolution in his heart, really, really complete way. Now that's it. He's doing tshuva. He's never going to go back from that again. Number two, B, he rebelled against Hashem, we'll explain. And number three, and he will not be over once again on being transgressing the mitzvahs of the Rabbanu Shalom, both by the positive and the negative. So the Tanya over here seems to actually add two conditions that the Rambam in his Hilchos Tshuva does not actually bring down. So what did he say? Number one, okay, that's the famous one. That one that Rambam also says, which is never to do the Aveira again. That the Rambam says you have to also make such a belev sholem that you'll never do it. Al Kidei Kach, that even the Rabbanu Shalom is made on you that I'll never do it again. That's the Rambam. But then he adds now another two that we're not familiar. Number two was to fix the underlying problem. Go to the root of the issue. How? By re-accepting the Rabbanu Shalom's authority on the world. That's very important. And then number three is to fix the rebellion that happened during the person doing the Aveira. V'zehu ikka perish loshen tshuva. This Tanya is the ikka understanding and explanation of the word tshuva, loshuv el Hashem, to go back, as we explained so many times, b'chol liboy, with all of your heart, b'chol nafshay, la'ovdoi v'lishmu kol mitzvosov, to serve and keep all of the mitzvahs, commercial kosov, yazev oshadauke v'ish, oven machshavosov, yoshev Hashem. Uber parshas netzavim, ksiv, v'shavta ad Hashem alekecha, v'shemata b'kol, he's being raised b'chol levovecha, shuv Hashem ad Hashem alekecha, that's the Haftorah we say, coming up in a few weeks, hashivin Hashem alecha v'nashuva v'chulei, v'loi kedas ha'homen shatshuva hi atainis. That's very important. I said this to you from the beginning, in the introduction share, is that one of the reasons that the Tanya writes many times that it's not a tinus that you need. People in his times were going around telling everyone that in order to do tshuva, you need to fast. Now, he'll get to fasting and when it's applicable, but he clearly says, in the beginning of this paragraph, V'zeu ika perish loshen tshuva is loshuv el Hashem, and he brings all the rayas from Devorim and Nach and everything else. V'loi kedas ha'homen shatshuva hi atainis. Unlike, contrary to popular belief, that tshuva is fasting. Va'filu mishava al krisus u'misas based in. which is the worst madrega, the highest, most chomo, shegoma kabarasi alidei yisurim, that the only way to complete the kapara process is through yisurim. Hainu shakadosh baruch hu maybe alav yisurim, meaning the Rabban Shalom Rachman L'Slam will bring on a person yisurim. V'hainu kishetshuvasoi v'tzuya lafon of Yisrael v'shuva l'Hashem b'chol libo v'nafsho me'ahava. If the tshuva that you do is wanted, it's accepted in front of the Rebbeinu Shalom because it's done b'chol libo v'nafsho from love, from ahava. Azai then besarusa de lesato v'kamayim aponim alponim v'chulei isarusa de le'ela, which means the arousing that goes on down over here corresponds to the arousing that's going to go on above in that case, and that's why the yisurim is going to cause the real kapora to be complete at that stage, because it will cause a person when he gets the yisurim, if he thinks why he's getting them, to do tshuva properly out of love, to go back to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That arousing down here will come upon him, will be reflected, will be corresponded to is a usu de laela, to the arousing above. La oira ava v'chesed Hashem l'morik avoni b'surim ba'olim hazeh, k'may shekosu ki es yav Hashem yechiach v'chole. V'lechein. Zug the Tanya. V'lechein, that's the reason that Yiskira Rambam v'asmag shum tainis klal b'mitzvah tshuva. Go and learn the Rambam and Hilchos Tshuva. You will not find anything about fasting after increases in Mr. Basin, even if the worst type of aveira is that a person transgresses. Rak havidoi, right, confessing, it's the ikka, that's the stage number one, or vakashos bechila, and of course asking for bechila. The Apostle says, v'isbadu eschatosu v'chole, or mashakosu b'yoyel. If you learn Novi, and you know Yolu is the son of Shmuel, who unfortunately went off the derech, and then he came back through tshuva, and it says in Yoel, Shuvu Odai b'chol levavchem b'tzoim uv'bchi, which clearly seems to state that when he did tshuva from after leaving the derech, he came back with tzoim, with fasting, and with crying in tshuva. Hainu, the Balatanya, how do you understand that? He only did that not because he needed to do that for tshuva. He needed to do that to avoid a decree of suffering, of the gzeira. For that he did the fasting. This is the reason that we fast. There's a reason to fast, but it's not to tshuva. It's just to make sure that the gzeira goes away. Right? Well, before Esther went into Achashverosh, everyone knows the Olam fasted 3 days beforehand. There was a reason to fast, but it's not a tshuva reason. It's a gzeira. It's the bimavatal gzeira reason. Right? This that it says in the Sifrei Hamusa, and specifically the Sefer Okeach, Sefer Chassidim, harbe taniyos v'sigufim la'ova al krisa misa basin, that a person has to mamash go through tremendous tanesim and real like hardships in order to, so to speak, pass the problem of krisa misa basin that he was over on. V'chein amotzi zer levatola, if a person lets out zer levatola shachayiv misa b'dei shamayim k'mo shekosu b'toyer gabe air v'oinon v'dinoi kechayove krisis le'inyan zeh. Hainu, what's the reason? In other words, the fasting over there is not for the tshuva shaboy, but rather the fasting has a very important purpose. He's not arguing with that, but not as the chelik of tshuva. It's just to save a person from the punishment of the Yisurim that might happen from Chas v'Shalom, the things that he may have done. It also is mezaris, it like quickens up the process and finishes off the kapara for his neshama. Right, in order to make sure he does it properly in the right frame of mind. Sometimes a fasting can sort of give a person that ability to springboard him to get to the right frame of mind. But the Balatanya has been very clear over here. Yes, fasting has its right place, but the Ikket Tshuva, as we spelled out very clearly, is number one, to make a resolution never to do it again. Number two, to fix the underlying source of the problem by accepting the authority of the Rabban Shalom, which, by the way, is so beautiful. Why we all know Rosh Hashanah is before Yom Kippur, because before you have Yom Kippur, you need a Rosh Hashanah to be Mamlech the Rabban Shalom. It's exactly what the Tanya is telling us. And then number three is to fix the rebellion that happened during the sin, which of other person needs all the other halakim of tshuva. But if a person wants to fast, that's just an extra thing. Mitzvah Shem tomorrow, B'siyat Shmaya, Perek Beis.